Alright, for my movie I watched Jeremiah Johnson with Robert Redford. It's a great movie. It's a good story about the trappers and westward expansion, but it's not a factually accurate movie. And my reasoning behind that is a lot of this, like the histories that were passed on about these trappers, a lot of them are oral histories. And the problem with oral histories is people add things and they embellish the facts sometimes. And people just hear things differently too. Like we've all played the telephone game as kids, and the message that gets started at the beginning of the line, by the time it reaches the end, it's changed pretty significantly. And that's definitely the case in this story. Now, the story of Jeremiah Johnson, the movie, is actually based on a book called Crow Killer, the saga of liver-eating Johnson. And Jeremiah Johnson, there was a character in the Old West named Jeremiah Johnson. He was out in the Montana area, Montana and Wyoming, and he did come west from the Mexican-American War. And this is where the movie differs from the book. This guy, his name was John Jeremiah Johnston, but he was in the U.S. Navy during the Mexican-American War. And they claim he punched out an officer and then deserted and changed his name to Jeremiah Johnson, so he came out west to hide out and become a mountain man. And that also kind of alludes to part of the problem, too, with these oral histories from mountain men. A lot of these guys were not rejects from society, but they were kind of antisocial. They were a little bit wild, and they just wanted to be away from people. So when they get together in their groups, like I said, like they're a little wild. They're not the most reputable guys. Some of these guys are hiding from the law. Stories get changed, things get changed, and that's just how it goes. Now, the author of this book, he interviewed two guys. One of them was Del Gue, who was a character in the movie, and he claims to have known Jeremiah Johnson and been there for some of these exploits. And once again, like, this is that mountain man thing. Like, these guys were already pretty legendary. They were larger-than-life characters as it was. But a lot of that was legend. Like, they kept adding to stuff. And the author even said, when he was writing the book, he said there was a few times that he felt like Del Gue was actually, was giving a little bit better story than the original story to make himself look good and make his friend look good as well. Now, there are some things that are pretty factual in the movie about Jeremiah Johnson. He was married to a Flathead Indian woman, and she was killed by a raiding party of Crows. But it didn't happen, the way all the stories kind of line up on this that have been passed on about this guy. He was out on a hunting party, came back, and the Crows had killed his wife. He wasn't out with the U.S. Army, out rescuing a wagon train. So he came back, and this is where it gets kind of fuzzy again. Like, this Del Gue guy claims he killed 200 Crow Indians, scalped them, and ate their livers. And that's a pretty high number, and it's a pretty wild story. So, like I said, there's so many people. The problem with these oral histories is so many people, because these guys are larger in life and they're these famous characters, people want to be there, they want to have their part in that. So they put themselves in these stories, they add and change facts a little bit, and then these guys become a little larger than life as time goes on. And that's definitely the case in Jeremiah Johnson. Because there's been people that back Del Gue's story, and then there's other guys that are actually pretty credible sources as well, but it can't be like pinpointed, that change the numbers, and it's like he killed 50 Indians. So the big thing is with these stories about these mountain men and stuff like that, you kind of have to take it at face value. It's just a story. It's hard to follow up and actually get the facts and do the research, because a lot of this is oral history. So you just have to kind of take it and learn from it and make your own reasoning.